because we know they are clearly angry. They are unhappy. Here they are, all good, law-abiding, patriotic citizens who do know who to despise, and they do know who to approve of. And Jesus' attention to Zacchaeus aren't appreciated by all those people looking on. Why, they thought, should he single out Zacchaeus to provide the honor of hospitality rather than some of them who had remained steadfast in their hatred of Romans? Why would Jesus want to go home with a sinner? Now, it's one thing for us to love sinners in the abstract when it's not really going to touch us. But it's quite another thing to invite somebody or have them invite themselves into their home. Even in the Middle East, in today's culture, providing hospitality to other people is considered a great honor, and it's a solemn duty. And I think it's hard for us in our culture to grasp how important what is happening here. For us, playing the host sometimes is seen as a duty that has to be performed. But we're always glad when our guests leave and we get the house back to ourselves. I strongly suspect my sister, after I stayed with her 2 days last week, was so glad to see my tail lights going out of her driveway and she got her house back. That's just the way it is. But Jesus, by inviting Zacchaeus to provide him with hospitality, is giving Zacchaeus two things. He's giving Zacchaeus honor, and Jesus is giving Zacchaeus respect. He really, if you think about it, is gracing the short tax collector with his presence. Well, if Zacchaeus was out on a limb in a literal sense, he's even more out on a limb when he stands before Jesus. Jesus' invitation to come down out of his tree, and Zacchaeus and his unexpected gracious offer to come stay in Zacchaeus' house calls from Zacchaeus a totally unexpected response. It's a response that's far more risky and far more scary than any climb up into those branches of the tree. Hear Zacchaeus' words again. Lord, he says, half of my possessions I will give to the poor. And if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I will pay back 4 times as much. That is a conversion. That's right there with Paul. I mean, things changed. Now, remember, Jesus hadn't demanded anything of Zacchaeus. He offered him the opportunity to play the gracious host, and that gave Zacchaeus stature far beyond his natural height. Yet this offer of grace and kindness calls forth a willingness on Zacchaeus' part to respond. Proposal and response. Jesus hasn't scolded Zacchaeus for being a tax collector. He hadn't said a word about his gouging of his fellow citizens to make himself richer. He hasn't even mentioned the word traitor. All he did was announce his intentions to stay with Zacchaeus. And yet that offer presents Zacchaeus with a demand that is far more filled with risk than anything he has ever done or dreamed of doing. Or maybe he has dreamed of doing it. Perhaps that's where this blurted out promise of generosity that Zacchaeus made comes from. Maybe it comes from Zacchaeus' dreams of being a better person than he is. As he stands before Jesus, maybe he sees himself, not as he is, a morally bankrupt and hated tax collector, but maybe Zacchaeus sees himself as the benefactor of the poor and down and out, and the righter of wrongs that may come along. That's going out on a limb. That's a risk. when we see ourselves as we might become, and we commit ourselves to begin living by that vision rather than what we think of ourselves now or what others think about it. It's scary. It's a scary risk to catch a vision of what we might become with the help of God's grace. It's risky to let go of our comfort zone, to get out of the status quo, to leave the familiar sins that we have and our cherished self-image. It's risky to stand before Jesus exposed for who and what we are, and exposed to what we might become. So this morning I want to suggest to you that the encounter with Christ produces just that effect in us. We might see ourselves in a light that we never saw before. We see that we are as unworthy and sinful as we admit in the privacy of our own hearts. But we may become better. We may become more useful than we ever dared to dream. This encounter that we might have with the living Christ calls forth from us qualities of character, calls forth from us qualities of behavior we never knew were in us, and is nothing less than a miracle of grace. It is, in fact, what salvation is all about. When Jesus said, "Today salvation has come to this house," he's responding to this blurted out new self that Zacchaeus had just discovered. The self that was totally concerned with justice and restitution. Salvation, friends, is becoming what we really are, who we really are in Christ. And then when we make that discovery, living it out in a lifestyle that is concrete and that makes known God's presence in our life, and everybody can see it. So the crowd of people who grumbled at grace that day, they don't seem to have profited at all by their encounter with Jesus. It was them, it was they who heard Jesus' reminder that the Son of Man came to seek those who were lost. For those who grumble at grace, and there are still those in our world today, they never experience it. Those who risk accepting it, though, discover the rewards, and their lives are changed forever. So that day, under the tree, and then at Zacchaeus' house, salvation came to Zacchaeus because he was willing to go out on that limb. Zacchaeus was willing to risk seeing Jesus. And the reward that came to Zacchaeus, and the reward that comes to us when we are willing to take the risk and go out on the limb and be what we can be through the grace and the love and the forgiveness of Jesus Christ, is what salvation is. Risk and reward, proposal and answer. It's in our court. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.